Thank you, Tim. Enrique, I guess I'll go. You just stand back and stand by. I want to thank you all. First of all, I didn't know I was going to be speaking tonight. Cynthia, thank you for letting me come up for a couple minutes. But thank you all for caring about the weaponization of government, supporting January 6th defendants and other victims of weaponization. It continues to be an issue, and the fact that Americans care about it means that we can hopefully push back on it and keep our country from ever getting to a point where we're an Orwellian dystopian nightmare, right? And for many of us, we lived that for 4 years. And a lot of people in here have been in prison. A lot of us had to fight our cases for a long time. And, you know, we didn't know what the future looked like. I fought my case for 4 years. And I represented myself. I did a lot of work on the video. And I tried to help other people too. And my theory was by putting more information out there. Nick Smith, great attorney, he told me I was nuts representing myself, but he said, don't do it. I said, Nick, I got to do it my way. But by doing it my way, I was able to put information out and file things that normal attorneys would get in a lot of trouble for filing probably. And by putting that information out, we began to turn the tide on the information. And I even had investigators for President Trump's team reaching out, asking me for help on a few things. But it really was an information battle because they tried to paint one narrative of what happened that day. And for many people, they didn't live the narrative that was being put out there in the public specter. And even now, you've got that narrative from the January 6th committee that they're still trying to push. And I really hope President Trump is very thorough in countering that, because otherwise that narrative may live forever. But we do know there were a lot of feds in the crowd. There were a lot of provocateurs, and we've identified some already, but you know, we need to get down to like everything that happened to get some resolution on that and make sure it never happens again. So Tim touched on it a little bit, but I do want to say the inauguration was great. The pardon for those who had been convicted or the charges being dropped for those who are still fighting their cases, that was great. But in many ways, 2025 has still been a very hard year for a lot of former January 6th defendants because we're still trying to get our lives on track, still trying to find jobs. I'm in a PhD program right now, and I put out tons of applications, and I get rejected because all people have to do is Google me and pull up the lies that the government attorneys said about me for years, and no job wants to touch that with a 10-foot pole. But I am doing my dissertation on the legal battle of January 6th, and I hope to tell that story more from an academic perspective and hopefully be done sometime in the next year on that. But the battle is still going for a lot of defendants, former defendants, and I think it's going to be a tough couple of years. So just because we're here having a dinner tonight and acknowledging some people in some ways doesn't mean it's gotten easier or the fight is over. And a lot of you who are victims of weaponization in other ways realize that. But anyway, I do appreciate your support, and love to meet you later on tonight. So thank you, Cynthia.